What's up, everybody? Jimmy Faluca reporting with Frank. Frank, how's it going, buddy?
Okay.
And this time around, ladies and gentlemen, we have a very special guest, Mr. Nick Durst from Nick Knack News. Nick, thank you very much for joining us. Hell has frozen over.
Hey, thanks for having me on the program. And for those of you that may know me from the Facebook group, just want you to know that I'm not a good guy. I'm not a bad guy.
You're the Nick Knack guy. Nick, please promote your page so that way our viewers can watch your show as well.
So we got a website. It's knickknacknews.wordpress.com, and it's a play on my name, yes. So it's Nick KNACKNEWS.wordpress.com. We've got a bunch of different topics on there: politics, wrestling, sports, entertainment. Frank's made a few videos already. Frank's a contributor, many articles on there, videos, got a weekly podcast on there.
Yeah, I'm gonna make that Lenny Dykstra steroid piece very soon.
Let's not discuss how the Mets got crushed tonight. Ugh, that was hard. I was following along while we were doing your show, Nick. Every time I was looking down, I was looking at that score, and I'm like, ugh, that's bad.
Not good, but I want to ask you guys, I know you have a topic plan here, but we're all Mets fans here. Who do you think would be the best wrestler on the Mets to go to WWE?
Oh, I don't know. See,
probably Noah Syndergaard, right? Because he's got the character already.
Syndergaard's
I
tall.
would either say Syndergaard because he'd be a good anti-hero,
Yeah,
or Cespedes because he'd be a great villain.
Vince likes tall guys.
It's definitely Matt Harvey.
He could be the biggest heel.
Yeah. Unfortunately, deep down, we all know he wants to wear pinstripes. But hey,
No.
listen, he wins. Let me tell you something. Considering how they did last year, and if they can go the distance and actually win it all this year, he wins a championship with the Mets. Considering the progression of that team, maybe he'll say, you know what? Maybe this is the place to be.
Yeah. Right now he's out of shape. He's not strong right now. That's why he's been getting hit.
Well, right now we're in second place.
Well, Nick, I told you about predicting the greatest staff in history.
Well, it's called a prediction.
No, I know, but I'm saying those guys on the Mets, they're all delicate. They could barely pitch 200 innings. So
Cologne
that's all
can
right.
pitch 500 innings.
Who?
Cologne.
Yeah, I know. He's
no, Nick, we don't mention Bartolo Colon now. Some people may get a little annoyed. But anyways, let's get to the topic at hand here. This is a topic that, we have gone back and forth with on the page, on our phones, whatever. The topic of the guy. The concept, the entire concept of the guy, the guy that the wrestling organization in question centers everything around. The question that I would like to pose is very simple. Is it more of a success from an all-around standpoint when the person in question is ordained, or is it more successful when that person organically just grows into that spot? Nick, you're the guest. I'd like for you to go first.
It's definitely more successful when it's organic. There's been many examples of that. Pretty much when the guys are the guy and they're very over, it works out great. So that's why, going back to the whole Ryback contract dispute, he's very right when he says that it's not fair that because he's doing his job the same as everybody else, that he's being told you have to go lose, that he gets paid less than the people that are being pushed to the moon because the company likes them. There's no difference between the two.
I agree with what you're saying to an extent that, he's being told to go out there and do his job, which also at the same time devalues his credibility, and then nobody looks at him as a star, and then they use that to justify paying him less.
Right, but yeah, that's why the stars always win, because they're stars, and the other guys lose. That's like saying, who said that? Jim Cornette said it the other day. That's like saying the extra in a Arnold Schwarzenegger movie should get paid just as much as Arnold Schwarzenegger.
But there is a difference in the statement. I think an extra in the Arnold Schwarzenegger movie is not being. I guess an argument can be made. It depends on the role, but that extra is not being paid to go into a movie to look bad, to look bad so that another actor can look good, and then he's never looked upon.
That means we should pay the Brooklyn Brawler as much as Hulk Hogan.
Not at all. I'm not saying that.
No,
That's what he's saying. That's what he's saying. That's what Ryback is saying.
This is how I view wrestling. If you're good, like you can make it to the mid to upper card by yourself. After that, you need the company to help you because it's up to them. So Ryback was in a category where he's upper mid card, lower main event card, and he had all the tools with the fans and the chant and the power moves. He could have been a world champion.
Except wrestle a 15-minute match. They didn't see
the thing with that though, Frank.
They didn't see the value in him. So
yeah, but they did not see value in him because of his lack of wrestling ability. Because if you look at the last two guys that they've had as the face of the company,
I think that's pretty important.
No, listen. I think that the wrestling ability is very important. However, I don't think the WWE brass really looks at that as a main staple because, no disrespect, you look at the last two guys that have been the face of the company, the current and the one before, neither one of them are technicians.
Yeah, but James, they pull it off. They pull it off.
They're good wrestlers, I think.
They pull it off because of that, Frank. They pull that off because of match structure, and most of the time, their opponent is a much better in-ring worker and is able to make them look good. Like The Undertaker, for example. I'll use my favorite. The Undertaker is not going to go out there and have a match like Ricky Steamboat because he can wrestle like Ricky Steamboat. You put The Undertaker in a match with a guy like Shawn Michaels.
Yeah, but what about all these guys are saying that CM Punk is saying Ryback hurts them? He's hurt another person in the past.
I don't think that the CM Punk podcast is the reason Ryback.
No, but there's a story that he hurt somebody else. He gave somebody else a concussion.
Listen, if it is true that he has hurt a couple of people, then I can understand that. But in 2012, that guy was dangerously popular. I mean,
he was, but only because you just said it, because they booked him that way. They booked him.
But the fact of the matter is, he was over, and then, as we mentioned on our last episode, they just did nothing with him. They made him lose in the Hell in a Cell in a stupid way, which was dumb. Then they had him lose to Mark Henry, which made even less sense. And then to put the icing on the cake, they turned him heel and made him lose.
They gave him the bad bully gimmick, and that's all. That's what.
And the bad bully gimmick never works because that bully eventually gets put down.
And you just described what being buried is all about.
But the point I think that we're trying to get at here is Nick amazingly agreed with what I just said, that being the guy should be something that a guy grows into, and it isn't ordained, oh, this guy's the face of the company, and we don't care if he's popular or not. We're just going to put him there. That doesn't work that way because
I agree.
When a guy is organically over and he's making you money, you run with that.
Yeah, but he's got to have all the other attributes too.
No, you're not understanding what I'm saying. Yes, he has to be able to deliver. However, let's use another example. Goldberg. I'm not the biggest Goldberg fan. However, that son of a bitch made WCW a ton of money. That guy was one of the reasons WCW was lasting at the end. Yes, Hulk Hogan turning into Hollywood Hulk Hogan was what pole vaulted them to that next level that made them compete with Vince and damn near put him out of business. However, when Bill Goldberg got over the way he did, that guy was as hot as anybody else you want to name. Arn Anderson has talked about this many times. He said he was as hot as Austin. He was as hot as Rock. He was making WCW a shit ton of money. It didn't matter that he wasn't wrestling like Bret Hart or Shawn Michaels.
He had limitations.
Of course he had limitations, but you want to know when the Goldberg thing was done?
When he got tasered.
Done when they made him lose the way he did, and then there was no real follow-up.
Yeah, but that's because Goldberg got hurt afterwards. Remember?
That was in that he got hurt with the whole Bret Hart thing when he was leading the NWO. Well, I'm talking about when he lost the title to Kevin Nash, and then Hulk Hogan reformed the NWO. There was really no real follow-up to that. Goldberg losing the streak should have been an angle that should have taken them for months and months. We can go on and on with fantasy booking, but the point is, when a guy's organically over and he's making you good money and he's putting on good matches, there's no reason to not run with that said wrestler. However, when you have a situation like they have right now with a guy that I think all of us like in Roman Reigns, I have no problem with the guy. I like him. The thing I have an issue with is that the WWE seems to be adamant about keeping him as a babyface even when it is clear that it's not working. You guys have the floor. I'd like to hear your assessments on that particular little thing.
Nick, go ahead.
Well, you know, I'm not liking this Roman Reigns thing because I'm getting sick of the Usos. I don't want to see them on TV anymore. They need to be repackaged or something.
Right. I said it the other day. They was up until a few weeks ago. They were scrubs, and now all of a sudden they're world beaters.
Like I said, the whole package, the whole thing to me is just, it just screams, you know. And I'm trying to not be vulgar because we're live, but it just screams, screw you, audience. We're gonna do what we want. I mean, the main event of WrestleMania was nothing short of a train wreck. When a 40, how old is Shane McMahon?
47.
When a 47-year-old man jumping off a steel cage is the highlight of your WrestleMania, and your WrestleMania main event is a complete failure, that's a problem. That is a big problem. It is no coincidence that at Roadblock, Dean Ambrose was unanimously cheered against Triple H, but at WrestleMania, Roman Reigns was unanimously booed. The only
Nick,
time that guy got
what do you feel about that? The WWE has to edit the sound for Roman Reigns.
I think it's possible to edit a live show, so I don't know.
Oh, but on TV they do.
You mean like SmackDown?
And Raw now. They either mute the crowd, they lower the boos, or they pipe in cheers.
Too familiar with that? I would say it's very difficult.
They do that. They do it. Trust me. And now you know. And now you know what they're doing. They're editing the clips at the end of the matches. If you go back to the last pay-per-view, they add cheers, like people cheering and holding up.
What I will say about this with the camera.
I'm saying, what do you think about that? What does it say about the success?
I really think, and you got to hear me out on this. It really does. I'm not defending or going against anything. It really depends on where they have their cameras and mics. Because there's been times when I've been at shows, and in this section I have been like, it's really either positive or negative for a guy. But on TV it comes out totally different because of where it's mic'd up, where the camera is. I would say that they probably have their mics and cameras closer to the ring, which is more like the rich people, not the hardcore fans. So that might be why it's coming out a little more positive on TV. But I don't know, just a theory.
All right, I'm saying, what about guys who were so popular like CM Punk and Daniel Bryan? They never had that problem. It was always cheers, right?
Well, if they were faces, I don't know.
Right, but I'm saying they were booked as baby faces who got cheers, right, James?
The point I think Frank is trying to make is that, you know, okay, Seth Rollins is not a babyface, but when he came out on Monday Night Raw, he got the ovation of the night. I can't remember the last time Roman Reigns was received like that since 2015, and that's a big problem for his character. As a fan of his, and I've been following him since he was in FCW, like I mentioned on your show, Nick, that everyone that watches our show should check out. It's really good. If you're a fan of Roman Reigns, you should be pissed with how the WWE has terribly dropped the ball on this guy. Because it should be the simplest thing in the world to do. You know for a fact that if the audience knows that a guy's being forced on them, they are immediately going to hate him. Because people, this is just human nature, People resent when they are told who they are supposed to like. And I will give you one example of it, and that's all it should take. Rocky Maivia. What did he end up becoming when they actually cleaned out the wax in their ears, listened to the audience, turned him heel? Nick, you're a big fan of the guy Rocky Maivia, what he ended up becoming. Please elaborate for the audience. What did he become when that company listened to the audience, turned him, but when he became the coolest guy in the room, made him more of an anti-hero? What did he become?
He's the great one. He really is a huge megastar. Outside of Hulk Hogan, transcended the wrestling business, brought it to heights that no one else has ever or can ever reach.
The point is, The Rock didn't reach that point because it was in the plan of the masterful Vince McMahon. Vince wanted Rocky Maivia to be a top babyface. He wanted Steve Austin to be a top heel. The opposite ended up happening because they listened to the audience. That has always been my argument. Now, yes, I want to see Roman Reigns turn heel. Does that mean he has to drop the title? Absolutely not. I advocate for what our friend Joe Calabrese was talking about earlier. I honestly would keep the belt on Reigns until WrestleMania 33. But he should turn heel and hold that belt until then, where he drops it in a match with the Shield. In a three.
James, how do you feel about the fact that Roman Reigns is on pace to just totally obliterate Ric Flair's World Heavyweight title number? Like he's on pace to have like a 20-time reign.
I think if that's how they're positioning it now, I think that's the wrong way to go about it. I don't think anyone should break Ric Flair's record. That includes Roman. That includes Seth Rollins. Cesaro, I love him. He's one of my favorite guys on the roster. I don't think he should, because I think Ric Flair, and if you look over my shoulder, I have the NWA Championship hanging over there. Ric Flair earned that, distinction of having the most world titles because of the schedule that he did. He was working 7 days a week, an hour every night, a schedule that these guys today, with how injury-prone they are, and the last calendar year has proven that these guys get injured left and right, they couldn't handle that.
Yeah, but I think that the title rings, it's overrated. Ric Flair.
I know that you're not a big fan of Flair, Frank.
No,
but
I am a Flair. No, but I'm saying, there was many times where Flair would drop the title and win it back a week later. I mean, it's just.
I understand that. My only argument with the Flair record is this: the person that should break the record of Flair, if it is to ever happen, should be someone who is an equal or better than him. It's like The Undertaker. Can any of you imagine someone having an undefeated streak of 21 consecutive WrestleManias? Because I can't. None of the guys on the roster right now are undefeated.
I can't picture anyone wrestling for 21 years.
Yeah, that's.
There you go. But back to the original topic at hand. The guy, I personally don't believe that there should be a guy that is, booked better than everybody else, protected more than everybody else. I personally think there should be several guys that you count on that are booked strong. Because, like we mentioned on Nick's show, if you pump everything into one guy, if something happens to that one guy and nobody else is an equal to them, then what do? You're putting all your eggs in one basket, and if that basket breaks, you're going to end up with a bunch of egg yolks all over the floor. Stupid analogy, but it works. Frank, what do you have to say about that?
I think the problem is that everybody knows how it plays out. It's always going to be the hero conquering at the end of the pay-per-view. His opponent throws everything at him. He always kicks out, and next night it's on to the next one. It's boring.
I don't think that's the problem.
It's predictable.
Hero always triumphs. The problem, I think, is the fans know that it's common knowledge, whether anyone would like to admit it or not, and this is where I'm going to throw down. The fans know that Vince does what he wants and not what the audience wants, and they resent that individual immediately. I think Roman Reigns would be a much more popular character, a much more over talent, probably would be one of the most over guys in the business right now, if he wasn't the only guy being booked the way he is. I think if you had, and this is just me, the guys I think should get booked properly, I think if you had guys like Reigns, Rollins, Ambrose, Wyatt, Cesaro, I wish Ryback was still around because I always liked him. You take guys like that, Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens, they belong in that discussion. You take those guys and you book them strong. When those guys meet, it's a big deal.
So let's ask Nick. Nick, who are three guys who would be candidates to be the face of the company right now, besides Roman Reigns?
Well, first I want to address James's point. You just named 10 guys. It's impossible to book 10 guys going over in feuds, those 10 guys. They have to verse each other. So I don't know how you could possibly book them all strong without them facing each other, somebody losing. AJ Styles versus Kevin Owens.
WWE's done it before. There was a time where the WWE all at once had Stone Cold, The Rock, Mankind, The Undertaker, Triple H, Kane, and The Big Show. And all 7 of those guys were viable WWF title contenders, and if they fought for the belt, you felt they had a chance. Right now.
Yeah, but I don't think they have that right now.
If you go back to that
but they have the talent that could. They just don't get the booking.
Nobody had a shot except Stone Cold. How many Raws and SmackDown ended with Stone Cold coming out and hitting a stunner on literally every single person you just named at once? It was just so unrealistic.
That's not entirely true.
Go ahead, but Nick, who are your 3 choices for face of the company besides Ray right now?
I don't necessarily think there should be a face of the company.
Well, who are 3 candidates?
I mean,
if Reigns disappeared tomorrow, who are 3 guys that could be candidates?
If Reigns disappeared tomorrow, well, I can give you my personal guys, but I'll give you the guys that they should go with. Obviously, Dean Ambrose, number 1. Seth Rollins, very dynamic guy. And, if we're not going to include Roman Reigns, which I think he should be included.
I'm just saying, besides him.
Okay, so as the 3rd guy, I would have to say, we're talking like right now or going towards the future?
Right now.
I don't know. I don't think there is anybody that really could.
I think
they could always fall back on Brock Lesnar.
I think that if, God forbid, Roman Reigns got hurt, or for whatever reason something happened, and there was something wrong where he had to go away, I agree with Nick. I would run with Seth Rollins. I would run with Dean Ambrose. But there are 2 guys that I would also, I would give them good booking. I know Nick's going to disagree with one. I would book Bray Wyatt strong. You cannot expect that guy to have the impact of The Undertaker without that guy being booked like he's a threat. Up until February of 2014, that guy was booked as a serious threat. After that, they dropped the ball with him. I know we're going to disagree on that, but that's how I feel. I look at, and I'm sure if Joe was here, he would say the same thing. They completely dropped the ball with him. What they did with him after he feuded with The Shield did more harm than good to him. Another guy I would go with, Kevin Owens. You want to talk about a guy that was, Nick, you know this, guy was making them a lot of money with his T-shirts. He puts on good matches. He's listen, as a villain, he's great. He's absolutely great. He's a guy that if you put him on the main stage, he will bust his ass and he'll put on a good match. And he could play any character you ask him to. If you want him to be an anti-hero, he could be an anti-hero. You want him to be a villain that you want to pay to see get his ass kicked, believe me, you put him in there with the right guy, it could work. I believe, like Nick just said, there shouldn't be a face of the company. There should be multiple guys that you could count on to make that money. Why have one guy making you millions when you could have several guys making you billions? There's no reason, at least in my mind, especially with what they do, they sabotage their own talent. And it gains them nothing. If anything, they lose on that. Because, and then I want you guys to elaborate on this thought, if they have multiple guys that are credible, that the fans actually will pay to see, not just one guy, if they have multiple guys, that means the company has more star power, which means in general they're making more money, which means the talent is making more money, which means, holy shit, Vince McMahon's making more money. Please elaborate on that.
I think that, so Frank was asking me who could be the guy right now. I've been saying that there's not potential for guys. Like, Kevin Owens can be the guy. I don't think, like, if you put him the title on him tomorrow, he'd run with it. But to me, the guy doesn't necessarily mean, he's the champ. The guy means he's the champ. He's doing all this media appearances, shirts, children. It's so much more than just wrestling when you're the guy, the face of the company. That's why, you hate the guy, but Cena did that well. The Rock did it well. Like, those guys, they took the company outside of the ring, and that's what the guy should be all about.
I agree, and the reason why they're so stubborn on Reigns and they were so stubborn on Cena is because they invested so much money promoting those guys and the TV time that now the reason why they bury the popular stars, other popular stars, is to protect their investments. You understand what I'm saying?
But ultimately, that serves no purpose.
No, it does. If you invest in one property, you can't have another property build up around it.
But that's not that. This isn't real estate. This is.
I know, but I'm using an analogy.
I understand that, but that's an analogy that really doesn't work because if you only have one star on that whole roster, why then would anyone pay to see them wrestle anyone if they have no credibility? It can't just be Roman Reigns and nothing. And I think that's why a lot of the fans are being vicious with him because he's being presented as the only choice. And, let's touch on a guy that I know Nick really doesn't care for that much, Stone Cold Steve Austin. He won 90-something% of his matches. But you want to know something else? The crowd was 100% behind him, number one. Number two, there were other options for you to care for that were credible. You had The Undertaker. You had The Rock. You had Triple H. You had Kane. You had The Big Show. Eventually, who else did you get out of that? You also got Kurt Angle. Then you also had Chris Benoit and Chris Jericho. You had all these guys that were credible. Right now, the only one that's credible, the only three guys that I could think of off the top of my head that are credible, that are, well, I can't even count Brock Lesnar because he's not full-time. But after Memorial Day, the only two guys you could count that are credible are John Cena and Roman Reigns. And that is a problem. That is a major problem.
Going back to the Austin thing, and to Frank's point too, when they invested a property, and it worked though, so that's why the reason this milestone, they shoved Austin down everybody's throat. For some reason, everybody liked it. He was in every segment, always dominating, always winning. Like you said, he won 90% of his matches. Through that model, they saw if we somehow keep shoving this guy down your throats, it works in the long run. That's how I feel.
That's not entirely true, Nick, because to me, I guess we have a difference in opinion in terms of the definition. To me, shoving someone down your throat is you don't want it, but they do it anyway. The fans wanted Austin. There's no doubt. I love The Undertaker to death. I wanted to see him as the WWF champion more than anything.
Do you know why it worked with Austin? Because
he was universally over. There's no question about it.
You know why he was universally over? Because he was portrayed as vulnerable. He had all the odds stacked against him. He had the evil Mr. McMahon.
You're missing the ultimate reason, Frank. The fans chose him. They chose him at WrestleMania 13. They chose him. The fans didn't choose John Cena. They didn't choose Roman Reigns. Vince McMahon did. And that's why they get the treatment they did.
No, the fans definitely chose John Cena.
At first, they chose Thugonomics John Cena. They didn't choose
John Cena.
John Cena as Thugonomics was different than the character he's portraying now. He was completely different. He was an anti-hero as Thugonomics John Cena. And 9 times out of 10, that's what most people like. Most people, if you actually think about it, they like Batman a hell of a lot more than they like Superman.
Right, because you got to show them
a badass.
Right, but you got to show them as vulnerable. You got to show them as vulnerable. You can't. You have to have that suspense. If you know that the top guy is just, there's no way he's going to lose, then that loses interest in
There was doubt whenever Austin was fighting someone like Kane or The Undertaker.
And because there was always that he was going to get screwed.
And the thing was, though, but like I said, the thing that everyone's missing out on, the reason Austin was so accepted, no matter how many times he won, was because the fans chose him. They chose the man. Daniel Bryan's another example. You want to know why the fans fought for him so badly? Why they didn't give a shit that Batista was coming back? Why they detested the John Cena Randy Orton thing? How the fans just shit all over that segment? Where wasn't it where they had the two belts and they were hanging it above?
Yeah.
They had all the past champions there. That was a ring filled with Triple H, John Cena, Randy Orton, Shawn Michaels, Bret Hart, and Mick Foley. Hall of Famers. And CM Punk, because he'll never be in the Hall of Fame as long as McMahon's on it. But all those people were in that ring, and the one guy they're chanting for is Daniel Bryan. There's a reason for that. They chose him. And if he were around right now, if he was still wrestling, they'd be rebelling for him.
All right, well, he's another guy. He's another guy that he was portrayed as vulnerable.
It's not that he was portrayed as vulnerable. The fans knew that the people in charge didn't want him. They knew it, and it was proven time and time again. Did it ever cross anybody's mind that, no offense, I understand that, Nick, you're a big fan of Vince, you have a lot of respect for him, but did it ever cross anybody's mind that Vince isn't always right? I mean, think about it. He didn't want Steve Austin. He had to be talked into hiring him. He didn't want to hire Mick Foley. JR had to talk him into hiring him. He didn't want to turn Rocky Maivia heel. His hand was forced. He didn't even want to go edgy in '97. Shane McMahon literally had to have a massive
Vince
argument.
has the final say. Everything that happened went through him.
No, I understand everything went through him, but a lot of all these decisions I just mentioned, they were not his idea. He was forced into doing it. Yes, he okayed it. Yes,
Go back to the '90s, the '80s, 2000s. Who was the creative team? Vince and maybe like two other people. Now you got
Pat Patterson.
That's the problem.
It was in Pat Patterson.
That is another problem. There's way too many cooks in the kitchen in terms of creative. And the problem is none of them will challenge Vince. JR has no problem.
You're going to disagree, but if Vince fired 15 writers and then he took on more responsibility, things would actually be better because there wouldn't be all these crazy things come up. Did you read recently the article on how Hornswoggle became the anonymous general manager? That was they pitched it to Vince as a joke, and he loved it seriously.
Yeah,
that was now the new thing with the shining stars. They're like, Vince, we got a great thing from Creamer and Epico. They're Puerto Rican. He's like, great, love it. And they're probably like, no, there's more. He's like, no, I don't care. Puerto Ricans, perfect.
Because he caters to the Latin community. That's why. It's simple things like that. That's how you got.
I agree with Nick to a degree that if they fired a bunch of the writers, it would automatically get better because, speaking as a guy that's worked in a couple of kitchens, if you have too many cooks in there, it ain't going to work out.
Of course.
Not going to work out.
But in the end, it's Vince. Vince has the final say.
Absolutely, and that's why when things are good, he deserves to say, yep, he did, he made the right call. But when things are bad, he deserves the blame.
Oh, of course.
And right now, the Roman Reigns experiment, it's a failure.
I'm worried Triple H might take over because I don't need to be seeing Triple H being WWE champion, winning the Royal Rumble. Well, what a disgrace that was.
Oh,
that was a disgrace. That was absolutely a disgrace. Just like
that was Triple H's idea.
Yeah, of course it is.
Like you mentioned earlier, Brock Lesnar beating Dean Ambrose. Did that help Dean Ambrose? No. If anything, it buried him even further.
You know what? I might actually defend Triple H on this one because usually he's always just trying to worm his way into the main event. But his pitch was probably like, I could get Roman Reigns over. The fans will hate me. I'll make myself hated. And it still didn't work.
They didn't. They cheered Triple H when he fought Roman Reigns.
Come
but
on,
simultaneously, when he fought Dean Ambrose, they were cheering for Ambrose.
Triple H could be a badass heel when he wants to be.
No, when he wants to. Listen, one of my favorite feuds with Triple H, and this feud, for whatever reason, gets lost in the shuffle, was when he feuded with Batista. When they went into that Hell in a Cell match, when Triple H beat him up with the hammer, that was one of the most violent beatdowns I ever seen. He can be a good heel. The problem is, you could be a great heel all you want, but if you're fighting someone that the crowd hates, that heat is dispelled. It's like, okay, Brock Lesnar. He should be the most hated man in wrestling because he basically murdered The Undertaker. But what did the WWE do? No offense, Nick. They put him against Cena, who the majority of the diehard wrestling audience cannot stand. They put him against Roman Reigns, who the crowd was against. And now Brock's one of the most popular guys they have. Why? Because they put him against people that the crowd hates. But I guarantee.
So, James, fast forward here to WrestleMania 33 in the main event when John Cena is taking on Roman Reigns. Who are you rooting for?
I'm rooting for the building to be emptied because it would be a stinker of a main event because there's nobody for the crowd to cheer for. That's why. The main event of WrestleMania next year should be Roman Reigns versus Seth Rollins versus Dean Ambrose. There's no other main event that should happen.
But like Frank mentioned previously, the plan is, and they're going to stick to it, Reigns is going to defeat Cena, and he's going to defeat Brock Lesnar. He's going to be the first guy to defeat Brock Lesnar other than The Undertaker.
And they're going to waste, they will have then wasted that 21-year legacy of The Undertaker. Think about that. They will have then wasted it. Why use it on a guy that isn't over when you could use it on someone who is? It's a wasted victory. It's like no.
I'm not saying it's happened. I just think.
No, I know that. I know you don't agree with it. I'm just speaking. I'm just thinking out loud. Why waste it on someone that isn't going to benefit from it? Because The Undertaker had something special in that streak, and someone was good enough to beat him. Whoever beats Brock Lesnar is elevated to a whole new level. Roman Reigns is already the world champion. He's won it 3 times. He's main evented WrestleMania twice. How much more can he be elevated? It's just like Cena. There's no reason for him to beat Brock Lesnar. The guy's a first ballot Hall of Famer. I hate his guts, but he is. He's a first ballot Hall of Famer. Nothing I can do about that. It's just like, okay, it's no different than if they wasted Brock's loss on someone like Batista or Orton or Jericho. It would make no sense. They don't benefit from it. I would rather take someone like a Cesaro, someone like a Kevin Owens, and I would use those guys. Someone that will benefit. Guys like the guys that have already been elevated don't need that type of victory. So I think it's a waste. But I understand that that's probably what's going to happen. And my answer to that is, in the last decade plus, by forcing someone on the fans, they've lost 50% of their viewers. How many more viewers are they going to lose over the next 5 years? The ratings have been steadily going down for the last 15 years. And that's not how it's supposed to be. The ratings are supposed to go up. People are supposed to be tuning in.
I'm going to take this another direction here. It's all about the guy, the man. Yeah. So, the guy, the man right now, I think we all agree, is still John Cena.
Roman Reigns. Roman Reigns is being presented as the guy.
Well, maybe within the ring and the storylines, but the guy, John Cena, he's going to be hosting the ESPYs. I think that's really big for WWE.
Yeah, but is that going to translate into ratings?
I think it could. Few. It's going to get the publicity out there. Might get some network subscriptions. It can't hurt WWE.
No, it can't hurt. I don't think it could hurt at all. But I think that if during the time he's been on top, if John Cena hasn't brought in any new viewers by now, he never will. That's my stance on it.
You think
he's had 15 years to bring in new viewers, and I just don't see.
He hasn't. All the children watching right now watch because of him. It's not. Maybe he's not growing the ratings, but maybe he's keeping them afloat. They could be a lot worse without him. We don't know.
That I agree. He did keep them steady.
He has kept them afloat, but he has not brought in new viewers, and that is something that the company, regardless of what they say, they sorely need that. They sorely need that because there's no reason why. Now, let me see. Trying to think. There was a number that came up. One of the Raws after a pay-per-view. I think it was Survivor Series. That Survivor Series after Survivor Series 2014, they had a specific number. The year after that passed, they were 800,000 viewers less than the year before. What happened to those other 800,000? They didn't all just switch from their televisions to their iPads. They didn't switch from watching it on, I'll watch it later, I'll DVR.
What are you talking about, last year's Survivor Series?
Comparing Survivor Series 2014.
What was the main event in that Survivor Series?
No, I'm not talking about Survivor Series the event. I'm talking about the Monday Night Raw after.
Yeah, I know, but what was the Survivor Series main event?
The Survivor Series main event, it's 2014, was Team Cena versus Team Authority, in which Sting debuted.
Right. Okay. The next one.
It was the culmination of the World Title tournament in which Roman Reigns won, and then.
And wasn't Sheamus was the champion?
Yes, sir.
Oh, there you go. I mean,
So you need to know.
And it was all predictable. Everybody knew that Roman Reigns was going to take the title off of Sheamus.
The point I'm trying to make is, over the last 15 years, they have lost 50% of their viewers without gaining them back. That is an issue that I remember for years, like in 2007, when I really started to dislike John Cena. I remember them telling me, "Oh, if you want him to be out of his spot, the ratings have to go down." Then after that excuse went away, someone has to get a lot of reaction than him. And
Hold on, let me ask Nick. Let me ask Nick.
Then I saw CM Punk and Daniel Bryan. Then they said, "Oh, someone's got to sell more merch." CM Punk and Dean Ambrose did it. Nothing changed. Now their viewership has been dwindling. I mean, to me, it shows that regardless of the ratings, regardless of how much money they make at the events, regardless of the attendance, they're just going to put whoever they want in that spot, and it will be eventually to their detriment.
Oh, let me ask Nick. Nick, you always say that the ratings don't matter that much, and they're still making a lot of money. What do you have to say about that?
I mean, that's what Vince says. As a former stockholder.
Yeah, but is he saying that just to butter up the shareholders?
In my opinion, he says that to minimize the loss of viewers.
Vince is the best at spinning things.
As a former stockholder, I was a stockholder for like 2 or 3 years. The last 3 years. Were the ratings great? No. Did I make money? Did I get a profit?
You had stock. You had stock in WWE.
Yes.
All right, so you turned the profit.
Right. It's all about, it's really, and it's true. And this is the same thing for ESPN, Fox. It's all about their apps now and their mobile products. They're not looking at ratings anymore, because if someone can whip out their phone and have that there within 10 seconds, why bother putting on the TV?
Yeah, but isn't that a big moneymaker, Raw and SmackDown for them? Hello? Anybody out there?
I'm here, Frank.
I said, isn't Raw and SmackDown a big moneymaker?
They're still making money off that because.
But I'm saying the less the ratings, the less they have to charge.
Raw is still the top-ranked show on USA. Top ratings. So that's why they're still making money off that.
So you don't think they could have higher ratings? You don't think that's possible? If you were a stockholder, you want to make the most money you can. Don't you think you would say maybe they could make more money on it? Maybe you made $1,000. Maybe you should make $10,000.
Right, but this is like a whole thing. This is like a whole other conversation here, talking about the television industry. There's never going to be.
Connects to the top guy, because that's another criteria for the top guy. The top guy's got to be able to either hold the ratings steady or increase the ratings, right?
Absolutely.
The thing with, if you want to say that with Cena, then I don't know anything about Reigns' ratings, but if there's been plenty of starting done by Forbes or whatever.
Reigns hasn't helped the ratings. At least based on what I've seen, the ratings haven't gone up since he's become the guy, since they've put him in that spot.
But the thing with Cena is, though, like his ratings were very steady since he became the man. They never dropped with him as champ or whatever.
They very slowly declined each year.
Since 2005, the ratings have dropped significantly.
Slowly.
It took a while, but it's no different than, let me see, how can I put this? Oh my goodness, the economy. The things that happen in the economy today are based on decisions made years ago.
Right. So listen, I'll defend Cena in a way. In the beginning, he really didn't have too many stars to work with. I always say that, and maybe the PG era hurt the product as well.
Yeah, because once you go from being on the Nitro, I agree with Frank to an extent with that.
But I mean, come on, there was some error, some sections of Raw where it was like pretty cartoonish. You had flying bunnies, Scooby Doo, bulls, little bulls running around. Come on, that's
You go from being on the Nitro roller coaster
the
to
Funkadactyls.
back
Come
to the
on,
spinning
that's
cup.
horrible.
All right, this is the last thing I'm going to say, and then I got to go.
Okay.
But if you look at, so when's the last time Cena was really full-time? Like, before his injury, and before filming the show? November, right? October, November?
I would say around October,
Okay.
right, leading up to Hell in a Cell.
Without looking, I can almost guarantee that since then, the ratings have definitely dropped.
They were dropping one right when he was wrestling too last year.
They were still down.
But there was definitely a significant drop without him. I know you guys don't like him. Totally
No, I
fine.
don't. There was
with us not liking him. If the guy gets people to watch, he gets people to watch.
He's
Nothing
still-
I say or do.
He's still their top draw, and that's why they were pushing him. Maybe that's why they go with Reigns now. Is Reigns going to be as successful as John Cena? I don't think so.
we'll see.
Well, only time will tell with that one. But I think we can unanimously agree that the guy that personally, I don't know what you guys think. I don't think there should be one guy that's put. I think there should be multiple guys that are in that position that are put in the rotation in which they could be successful. It shouldn't just be all about one guy. Nick had to drop. Nick, thanks for joining us. We were very happy to have you. It's funny how, Frank, it's very funny how we had someone on the show that we usually don't agree with that much, but yet no arguments broke out. I find that interesting.
Well, it's called being intelligent adult, intelligent American.
Very intelligent American. I am Sheik, number one.
That's right. You're an intelligent American.
Jesus Christ. But like I said, I don't think that there should be one guy that they pump absolutely everything into. Because if something happens to that one guy that you've pumped everything into, eventually.
Listen, and it's also unfair to do that to the guy that you're choosing.
You're putting it. Because let's also be honest. Was Hulk Hogan all by himself? No. He had Ultimate Warrior, the Macho Man Randy Savage, Andre the Giant.
Yeah, but James, he when he started, those guys, everybody started coming, and he was the draw. He was the draw to the WWF because everybody started seeing.
Yeah, but as more guys came in, he was able to share the weight with those guys.
Right. He had a chance to work with legends too. Big stars.
Same thing with Steve Austin. Steve Austin wasn't all by himself.
No, but that's the only reason why I defend Cena, because
from the year 2008 to 2010, he had nobody else.
Oh, and the PG era.
That was the dark times.
Yeah.
But like you've said many times, Frank, once 2011 hit, there was no excuses to just push him.
Yeah, no, they did it, but he was always their insurance policy. Like whenever they panicked or whenever something happened, they'd always just throw the belt back on him for a couple of months. But anyway,
I think we can agree the Roman Reigns babyface run has been a failure.
Yeah, it is.
I feel terrible for the guy because he's getting caned.
But you know what? He's already wrestling as a heel, so all that's got to be done is like they have to.
The character's just got to turn because you watched the Extreme Rules match. He was wrestling like a heel.
Yeah, and he even acted like a heel, saying, "You've never won this, and you never will." That's heel stuff. But anyway, they just got to acknowledge it.
Exactly, and they have to learn to accept it that it's just not working. But that doesn't necessarily mean that Reigns has to be depushed.
No. I said it. I said it. There's more intriguing matchups with him as a heel champion.
That's the quote that I want to make sure that is put out there. Nobody wants Reigns to be depushed. There is simply more value in him as a heel and more intriguing matchups. Frank, you hit the nail right on the head.
It is.
And all it takes is for one guy in that locker room, and you know who that guy is, to let go of his ego and do what is, dare I say it, best for business. Reigns as a heel, there are more options, number one. Number two, the fans are allowed to freely boo him without being manipulated. And number three, you're giving your audience what you want while getting what you want all at the same time, which is Reigns with the belt. I don't understand what's so damn difficult. But I think that's going to do it for Frank and myself. If we come up with any topics between now and NXT, we'll talk about them. But as of this moment, our next episode is going to be the NXT Takeover. Frank, you're going to be here for that?
Yes, sir.
Are we sure this time?
Oh, yeah. It's Wednesday. No problem.
Awesome. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to take this time to thank Nick Durst for joining us. Frank, I think we did good.
Yes,
I thought that was great. Well, you guys, you have a good night. Take great care. If you have any questions for us, either inbox us here or inbox us on the page. Take care, guys.